I've been doing the pallet business for the last 25 years. I teach other people how to do it, but I think it's important that I give you a bird's eye view, a blueprint, so to speak, of what changed from 98 all the way to 2023 and walk you through that process so you have an idea of what knowledge I'm delivering to folks that want to learn about this as well. So let's go back to 1998 when I started doing this. One, I didn't even know what a pallet was. I stumbled onto this business and never had paid any attention to them. So right away, when we first come across the first 2,000 pallets that we get for free, I'd never seen that. So immediately out of the gate, I am saying to myself, where is there another business where I can get my product for free? And that even gets better over time as well. Not only free, but getting paid to take pallets away and then sell them as well in some cases. So that even was revealed to me as I went through this process. But a lot of other things came into play and a lot of situations and problems and situations that I could solve. And my whole goal this whole period of time was to shorten my work day so I had more time freedom and money freedom. How much money could I make in short periods of time and free myself to have the rest of the day for myself and not have to work a 8-hour day if I chose not to. Now, let's start off with this. When I first started, the only pallet I really was exposed to or knew about was the standard 4840, where in the beginning it was 95% of my business. Juxtapose that to today, it's 10% of my business, the standard pallet is. In the beginning, I was selling to a pallet yard because I didn't know about who the businesses were that would actually need these pallets. Again, I was locked in the beginning with the 4840 standard pallet only. So that was my only option that I knew about and that I could figure out because that's what I was exposed to in the beginning. And ignorance is what I was operating off of in the beginning. So as I learned more about the industry and noticed the issues for the suppliers is where the change started to take place as well. When I would come across a supplier, they would have not only 4840s and bunches and hundreds of those, but they'd have hundreds and even thousands of the other styles of pallets as well that I wasn't accessing because I didn't know what to do with them. So it was an arduous process of trying to figure out what goes on with these other styles and sizes of pallets. Who are the businesses that need them? And it took me a long time to figure out who has what and what goes where. So that was part of that process of trying to figure out maximizing the supply. And the flip side of that, or the marrying up of being able to solve that problem, created a scenario where now I was the guy for the supplier, the business that had these pallets as a byproduct and didn't know what to do with them. I was the guy not only was moving that 4840 standard, but I was moving all the other styles as well. Okay. So figuring out who those businesses are and the types of businesses that need all different sorts and styles of pallets and figuring out what are the benefits of all the different sizes and styles of pallets and being able to help the buyer on the other hand maximize their profits by lowering their costs, and not only that, creating a situation where what I was supplying them worked better than what they were currently using as well. So I had to figure all that part of it out. But then what started to come into play, becoming an expert at something, you have to do it for a long while and you have to be exposed to a lot of scenarios. And the more you're exposed to something, the more your mind starts to figure out the answers to the problems, right? So being in warehouse after warehouse, day after day after day, I was able to start noticing trends and patterns and problems that were common between all the different warehouses outside of just, hey, I got pallets, you need pallets. There are a whole series of issues inside the warehouse that I could help them out with because I started trying to figure out how to answer these problems for them. And I'll give you one example. I mean, there's a whole series of examples, but efficiency. These warehouses are huge. I'll even put up a few pictures here to help you guys get the picture in your mind of what we're dealing with here. They're massive. And the faster they can get orders done, the more efficient they are and the better off their business is. So there were efficiency problems inside the warehouse, and some of them had to do with the pallets as well. So I had to come up with solutions for that specific problem as an example, help them understand not only am I just a pallet guy, I'm also more of a consultant as well, and give them solutions that they haven't thought of to increase their efficiency inside that warehouse. Now, I teach those strategies in the training, but just to give you an example of just one thing I had to figure out that related to my business, that exponentially, one, grew my business, but helped that customer out, that buyer out, and suppliers out as well when it came to efficiency within their warehouse. Like I said, the only reason I started figuring this stuff out is because I was exposed to these issues over and over and over again. I would hear the complaints from warehouse managers of what these issues were, and I wanted to be of value to those businesses. So what could I do in my realm to help them out? And those solutions came into play, and it increased my business and locked me in even further with the buyer, and because I was bringing value to the table. And that's what business is about. A lot of time is you bringing value to the table and being able to advise a warehouse on some things that can really improve their business. And there's a lot of other areas inside these warehouses as well that come into play that we can really change the dynamic of a business. So that was a paradigm shift as well when it came to my pallet business and how I was going to serve the customers. Now, back to the supplier, being able to move a large variety of pallets gave me exclusivity for the pallets. When you're dealing with a standard 4840, and like a lot of scavengers do, and they make that their whole business, well, the pallet yards want that size pallet because that's what they deal with. The other scavengers want those pallets. And I'm not saying you can't deal with 4840s, but at the same time, if you're able to serve that supplier in a way to where you're able to move not only their pallets, but their crates and their drums and their dunnage and their corrugated boxes, now you're tethered to that business in a multitude of different ways, where the other competition, so-called competition, that's only considered basically scavengers, is an issue. Now, another realm that came into play, there are a lot of what I'm calling scavengers out there. They're fly by night. They're not dependable. Their phone's been turned off 3 times. They hadn't bathed in 3 days. They don't communicate well. Yes, do they sometimes have pallets? Absolutely. But there's a very important thing called dependability as well. And the more dependable you are when it comes to this particular issue of pallets, the more they will work with you, because the pallet, even though it doesn't seem very important, it just seems like a pile of wood, it's the one thing in the business that keeps the business going. Meaning the trucks are coming in. They have to be loaded up. They have to go out. If they are out of pallets, there is a domino effect that takes place. For trucks coming in today are delayed till tomorrow. The ones for tomorrow are all bunched together, and they're having to wait outside. So running out of pallets and having someone that's not showing up or dependable or bringing the right thing or maximizing their profits by supplying them with better solutions as far as pallets go is important when it comes to the long-standing sustainability of your business. So one, getting that exclusivity is key to that when it comes to supply, and being able to move a plethora of different items from that supplier locks you in. Learning that is so important to this business. It's a linchpin to make the other part of the half of the business work. There's actually 3 legs to this stool. There's the supplier and the buyer, and then there's you. And all 3 have to win. So realizing that and maximizing your supply in a way to where you're locked in and not having your legs cut out from under you because you've served that supplier in a better way is so important. Let's go into back in 2006 as a different blueprint change that I had to come start doing at that point. One of the businesses I was dealing with ended up going out of business because of the downturn. So what happened was I wanted to create other revenue streams. And I mentioned some of these items just a minute ago, but I was dealing with pallets and different size pallets at that point, which differentiated me from other scavengers out there. But there were so many other items starting to come into play that I had noticed over the years. And I wanted to figure out, how can I move these other items? Wire spools, corrugated boxes, crates, dunnage, all these items also were needed by these buyers that were buying pallets from me. So I had a built-in customer already. So how can I layer now other revenue streams on top of it and find the suppliers and network that out as well? So not only are they ordering pallets from me, now they're ordering crates from me as well. Exactly, as an example, one customer or a customer's ordering corrugated boxes, 55-gallon drums, and pallets. Or in another customer's ordering dunnage, Gaylord boxes, and pallets, right? So that was an important nut to crack. Again, if it just makes sense, if you tether yourself to a business in a multitude of different ways, you become indispensable, which is another secret, another blueprint that you should copy and learn about to sustain this type of business in the correct manner. Let's go over another topic. When it came to making money passively, how can I make money doing this and help a business out simultaneously without complicating my life? That was my goal. Don't complicate your life. Keep it simple. Now, there was one point in time, because I didn't know any better, early on, where I ended up having an order where they needed some custom built pallets. And as you know, I did remodeling work and carpentry and all that before this venture back in 98. So I had some skills in that manner. I never really enjoyed it though. So I had a situation where they needed custom built pallets, and I went out and bought the wood and built a template and started building out these pallets. Even had my brother come in and do me. They needed 200 6.5-foot long pallets, right? Heavy duty. They wanted to use it internal use inside their warehouse. And I remember building those. And at one point, was I making good profit on each one? I was. But it reminded me of the remodeling business, with the drills. And we were actually using screws. They wanted screws instead of nails. They wanted longevity for this pallet. So the thing that happened was I had a revelation at one point going, I could have, by the time it took me to build all these pallets, I could have done an A to B with lightly used pallets by the thousands, and made money that way in a more simpler form than actually having to build them myself, right? So the brokering concept started to being developed at that point as well. And once that brokering concept started coming into fruition, it took me a long time to figure out that part of it, but it freed me up from having to build pallets. Or if I had large orders of 4840 standard pallets, since I was moving away from that, that was only 10% of my business. I didn't want to have to stockpile them. I didn't want the warehouse. I didn't want to have to repair them, that type of thing. So I started on large orders of 1,000 or more, started brokering those pallets instead, being the middleman for them, which made me a nice little profit, but simplified my life simultaneously. I could go on and on, all the different things that I've learned over all these 25 years of doing this. And I share that, of course, in the training, because I had to spend an exorbitant amount of time trying to figure this stuff out. And the fact that I can now teach people how to do that and them not have to figure it out on their own and supply them with the blueprint and the exact places and types of businesses and what to say and the whole gamut, A to Z, on how to do this, it's pretty satisfying, I got to say, because it's nice to see somebody take that information and run with it and get out of the gate in a quick fashion and start running this business efficiently like I did after many years, but do it out of the gate was what I'm trying to say. So I just want you folks to understand that there's a lot of information and strategies that come into play with this business model that make it so much more efficient and profitable and helpful to the businesses that we're dealing with. And having that knowledge is my job to prepare you for. I had created this whole training for you folks to be able to go step by step, pause as you're going through, take action as you're going through the training, get ready to make things happen, but have everything in place, your ducks in a row right as you go out the gate. And also be efficient in the way you do it. I don't have people aimlessly going down alleyways looking for pallets. There's strategies in here to actually do it from the comfort of your home as well. And there's a lot of information that you don't even realize that you should know to help these businesses out in the proper manner, whether they be a supplier or buyer. Okay? I appreciate you taking time. I know this is a long video, but I think it's important that you understand these concepts so you know what to expect from the training and know that the end result is money freedom and time freedom is where we're trying to get you by using the tactics that are taught in the training. All right, this is John Wilker with simplestbiz.com. If you like this content, thumbs up, please, subscribe, and ring the bell so you'll get notifications when I put the next video out there. Have a good one.